are
Hi,
you?
how are you?
I'm good, good. Good to see you.
I know, right? And I mean, like, we live in the same place or same
Mhm.
country, but we hardly get to see each other in person. So this is
Exactly.
so good to see.
Exactly. But then I think we're quite used to it because, we've been doing this for a while now, isn't it? Where, we actually, meet each other on Zoom, even I wouldn't say pre-COVID, but COVID, made us find a new way, right? A novel way to kind of and also to do this, to meet up, to do this. So yeah.
Absolutely, 100% agree. I mean, Zoom has saved many lives, many conversations, I would say. So, okay, so we are today here
Mm-hmm.
for the Picture Book Matters podcast. It's our third episode. Oh my God.
Oh gosh, long time coming.
Yes, it's been a while, but I guess we both are super happy to be back with our podcast series. And this time we really promise whoever is listening or seeing us that we will be more regular with our podcast and will definitely come back to you with more episodes on a regular basis.
Definitely
That's a
100%.
promise.
That's a promise, 100%. Yeah.
Okay, so those of you who don't know who we are and what is Picture Book Matters and what is Picture Book Matters podcast, Picture Book Matters is a platform through which Eva and I we conduct workshops and masterclasses, and we support emerging and aspiring picture book creators. And it's co-founded, the platform Picture Book Matters is co-founded by the two of us. Eva is an award-winning author and editor, and I am a picture book illustrator, a graphic novelist, and a film producer.
Hmm.
And we together, we also do this Picture Book Matters podcast through which we discuss a lot of things related or matters which are related to picture books. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And we both wear quite a few hats, don't we? Yeah.
We do.
So,
We do.
and
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. So let's just dive into our topic today, Eva. And I
Mhm.
know you have an interesting topic with you in your basket. So why don't you tell us about what's today's topic and then we will start talking.
Yeah, I think after some thinking, we should, start we should start our third episode on let's talk about a day in our lives, a day in the life of a picture book creator. How's this? Right.
Exciting.
Yeah, exciting, isn't it? Yeah. Uh,
Or rather, very boring. I don't know. I mean, we're going to burst a lot of bubbles today.
yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know. My life as a picture book writer isn't I mean, I think there are lots of I don't know what do you think the myths are? I mean, like I think there are lots of myths about writing per se or the creative process per se, right?
Right, right. I mean, what I have felt in general is that, at least, when you talk to people who have no idea, and most of the time people do not have the idea of how we live our lives, right? I mean, how is it to wake up every morning and wear the hats that we do?
Mhm.
So what I have felt most of the time that they imagine a lot of things sometimes, and the most obvious things to imagine is that, oh, it's a very interesting life, very creative, very glamorous life where you're just, waking up and just reading books and writing stories and creating characters and having fun. I think, and because I remember back in the day in Singapore, one of my friends actually, she said, I would love to come over to your studio to see you work. And it made me so uncomfortable. I mean, it was so, even the idea of somebody coming to my place and observing me while I'm working made me so uncomfortable that I said, "Oh, no, no, no! I mean, I prefer privacy, when I'm working." So, yeah, what
Yeah,
do you
I,
think?
I guess I always say that, okay, writing and creating, let's just say creating, because we both do different things, right? I mean, I solely write, as you know, and, I'm learning to draw, but not very good there. So the creative process, let's just say, um, I think it's not a myth to say that it's a solo process, right? Isn't it? As a writer, I'm at my desk, I hunker down and I write, and I don't think of anything else except my story, what I want to do, and I'm on my own. And I suppose it's the same for you as an illustrator, right? And that's not a myth, but I think it's also important to say that the creative process is also a community process. It's also communal
Yeah.
because we are together as in a community. I have writing partners or critique partners that I talk to. I ask them about, like I show them my manuscript, they show me theirs, and we exchange, like we kind of review each other's work,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And so that's kind of that communality or that community space. But
Hmm.
when it comes to creation itself, when I write my stories, definitely I'm on my own, right? And
Yes.
it
Yeah.
would be really weird if someone came and sat down next to me and watched me work. I mean, I would be like, what? And then I'll get really distracted, right?
Yes.
I
Yes.
love I love the idea of a writing shed. I know some authors who have that. And they just go to their garden and in their shed and then they write.
Yep.
I'm like so full of envy. I wish I had that. I just have a little messy space. Yeah.
Yeah, I think those messy places somehow are the best because they're full of ideas here and there, and yeah, it's a beautiful mess, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess. And like often when in the beginning when I started working, when I started writing, I would be very interested to hear like on podcasts or on whatever on Instagram reels, like how people's desks look like, right? Like sometimes your publicist would say, okay, take a picture of where you work, then
Yeah,
put it on
yeah,
Instagram. And I thought it was really funny because I don't have a desk. I have a space and I write on my lap. I mean, right now I'm talking to you, right? My laptop is actually on my lap and I'm seated down on the floor on this cushion, like a bean bag. And it's like my nest. So I don't have a desk. I have a writing nest.
yeah, yeah.
But it's so messy that I'm so embarrassed to like show anyone.
So, okay, let's talk about the process a little bit, just to give our our listeners and our viewers a taster into this.
Hmm.
So, how like typically, how do you start your day? Like, what time do you usually wake up? I know you are a morning early bird.
Yeah, I wake up quite early. So I'm up usually 6:30. I have my coffee, and
Hmm.
then I slowly try to wake up with the caffeine and all that, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And it all depends on kind of like what story I'm working on, or if I'm working on a story.
Hmm.
I'm not always working on a story. Sometimes I'm actually oh gosh. Sometimes I'm actually answering emails, talking to people,
Hmm.
and all this is done via email and texts and all that. And I think for me, most days are like that now because, I'm preparing for next year's three books to be released next year. I'm preparing I'm in discussion with my editors on like the book tour, the publicists on what to do, things like that. So I guess after you've done all that, after the book's going, done the editing, the book's going to be published, and you kind of still have things to do.
Yeah.
And it's not like, oh, you can just sit still and think of the next story because you have to promote your books,
Yes.
right?
Yep. Big
And yeah, and I don't know, like, I mean, okay, I'll talk about a little bit about, like what authors are expected to do these days. But then what about you? Like, how does your day start?
I'm not really an early bird, you know that.
I get that. Yeah.
I'm a night owl, but at the
Yeah.
same time, I try to wake up early. So, nowadays, and especially not really nowadays, I would say for for the past 2, 3 years, since I got into film production more seriously, I have made it a habit of dividing my day into different parts because I do a lot of different things, right?
Hmm.
And my brain is also now classified to respond
Compartmentalize.
to different things at different.
Exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
those who know me, they know it very well that I'm a very, disciplined person that way because I follow checklists. I have
Yes.
a daily checklist, I have a weekly checklist, I have a monthly checklist, and also I have the yearly plan. So
Yeah.
I usually, unlike you, around 6:30 normally, my
Mm-hmm.
alarm at least it buzzes at 6:30, but then I take some more time to wake up. But by 7, I'm up. I'm
Mm-hmm.
up by 7 o'clock, and then I have my coffee as well. I mean, without the coffee, I can't really wake up.
Yeah, right, totally.
And then between 7 to 7:30, and this has been happening for a while now in my life. So 7 to 7:30. First of all, I always call my mother. So we have a time difference.
Oh,
She's in Calcutta in India.
every
So
day you call your mom. Oh, that's
every day,
so,
yes, every morning,
oh, that's so
she would wait
lovely.
for my call, and if I don't call her, she would be like, "What happened?" So
Of course, of course.
yes, so I call her, and we have some daily conversation. What happened yesterday? So usually that's how it starts.
Yeah.
And then after that conversation, that's the time between 7 to 8, actually, is post that conversation, is my time to reflect upon a few things. Sometimes there's a beautiful sunrise. So this room is facing east. So
Yeah,
I,
you've got lots of light.
yes, yes.
Nice.
And it's a beautiful scene outside because you also get to see the Windsor Castle. So,
Oh,
the sun rises from here.
beautiful.
So, yeah, I observe that if the sun rises, most of the time it's cloudy.
Cloudy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I observe all those things. And sometimes I also sing in the morning. So, I have
Oh,
this habit of singing some songs, some prayer songs. I love doing that. So
lovely.
I do, those kind of things in the morning. But at the same time, I would say between 8 to 9, I also respond to some emails
Mhm.
because these are emails coming from different time zones, right? So
Yes.
they're all piled up. And if I don't respond, for example, there could be emails from Malaysia or Singapore or Philippines, and then I have to respond to those emails because they have been sitting there for a while. Those people are
Yes.
waiting for my response. So I have to respond to that. Yeah, and then I guess I have my breakfast, and that's when around by 10 o'clock, uh, actually by 10 I have my breakfast. So around 10:30, I actually officially start the day's work.
My goodness, you're so disciplined. I'm not like that at all. I mean, I'm like, okay, I have a routine. Obviously, I get up, I make my coffee, I
Hmm.
come to my nest, I kind of put a few things away because usually by the next day it's messy again, you know. And and you're so disciplined, you know. I wish I were a bit more like that, but I am quite
But we all
disorganized.
have
And
different
I think we
processes.
all, yeah, we're all different processes, isn't it? I mean, right now, I'm actually not even busy writing. I wish I were,
Hmm.
because I would, feel much better about myself. Um, I am actually busy trying to put together a workshop, and it's a personal development workshop that I've been asked to do for teachers, right? And so I was when I mean I was a teacher, as you know. I used to
Hmm.
teach, and I used to teach English at secondary school, as you know. I have never worked with authors ever. I mean, of course,
Hmm.
those were like back in the day where, you didn't get that many authors going to school. Authors just did their thing. School teachers just did their thing, and everybody's kind of siloed and working on their own, right? Even though if you think about education and publishing, they actually work together, don't they? I mean, because publishers publish books for children to read. I mean, we talk about children because we are primarily children's, well, I write primarily for children, as you know. So these days authors have to teach teachers how to be creative, how to write creatively, so that they can then go back and teach their students. And when I was like asked to do that, I was like, oh, like, oh, as if I don't have enough hats I'm wearing. You know, it made me kind of chuckle. I was like, I mean, I obviously took on, the challenge. It's a challenge because
Hmm.
when we do the PBM workshops, the Picture Book Matters book workshops, right? We are actually talking to authors or emerging or aspiring. So the workshops run differently. Whereas teachers, I have to switch my brain. I
Yes.
have to like think of like how, because it's teacher training, right? So I'm like going like, okay, how do I teach a bunch of teachers and show them how I write, how I turn my ideas into stories, right?
Right.
And as you know, with ideas are everywhere, right?
Yes.
They're
Yeah.
everywhere, and it's free. They're free, you know.
Yeah.
But it's when you put that idea into a story that it becomes copyrighted, or you put those ideas into illustrations that they become copyrighted, right? Um, and it's so hard to explain to people like how these ideas come about, because you don't really know as a creator, that you just know that, oh, like I was trying to think about how I had this story called Grandpa Lee's um pumpkin soup,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
I wanted to write this story um that's like got a Halloween feel, right? And it centers this grumpy grandfather and his grumpy grandchild. But
Hmm.
they have kind of like they have, they have a little bit of a quarrel, and then they patch up, right? And it's all around um the grandpa loving the grandchild so much,
Hmm.
right? But doesn't know how to say it.
Yeah.
Okay, so he just grouses, and she's like this grumpy little child, like a lot of children are. And then grandpa makes soup,
Yeah.
and then they get together, and she feels his love, right? Because
Yes.
in Asian cultures, as you know, we show our love through food, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So so that idea came from like, okay, how does a grandfather show this, how does a grumpy old man really show his grumpy granddaughter he loves her, right? And
Yes.
but it was so hard to explain it to someone, like because they'll say, how did you get, because don't you get people asking you like, so how did you get the idea for this, right?
Yes, yes. So when you develop your idea, so is that how normally, like, when, because our topic today is the day, spent
Mm-mm,
in a PB creator's life. So for
mm,
example, when you're creating this kind of story, do you like sit at a stretch and start writing, or
mm.
how does the process or the day look like?
That's a great question.
Hmm.
Uh, I think these ideas are just ideas. They're just percolating in my head. So I was like,
Hmm.
oh, no, there's a pumpkin, there's soup, there's this grumpy old person, there's this grumpy child. Like, how
Yeah.
do I want to structure this story? Is this story going to
Hmm.
be in rhyming couplets,
Hmm.
or is it going to be in prose? Um, like, that is hard because I just jot all these ideas down. I have this notebook that I write them down on,
Hmm.
whatever.
Hmm.
Sometimes what I do is I also write them down on pieces of paper because I'm so messy.
Hmm.
I just, I have this envelope. I'm like, oh, okay, I just write it all down there, right? And
Yes.
so how do I do that? Your question is, do I work on it immediately? I don't, because I write it all down and I let it percolate.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
in my head for actually sometimes a very long time,
Do
right?
you
So
have a regime? Like, do you only write in the morning and or
yeah, yeah, I do.
okay,
I only write in the morning,
okay, okay,
and then I edit in the afternoon.
okay. I
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
I see. So you don't write at all in the evenings.
No, because I'm too tired, and
Hmm.
then I feel that by the evening, my kind of my brain is, you know, it's fried really.
Hmm.
So yeah, so I write in the morning. I
Yes.
like I you know a- And especially when it's the first draft, so I just
Hmm.
put it all out there, and then I rest, and I go back to it in the afternoon. I look at it again,
Yeah.
and but like what you do for illustrations, right? It's drafts after drafts after drafts. So it's not just, oh,
Yeah.
what,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean, well, once you've written it down and you've edited it, that's it. right?
Of course, I mean it's not a day's job, right? I mean we are talking today about a day in our life, but it's a regular thing. I mean perhaps today you will be writing something and tomorrow again you will be writing the same thing, right?
Yeah,
Because it
yeah.
can't be written in one day. I mean
No,
it can be, but you will not be satisfied with that
yeah,
one day's writing.
that's right. And I think also for because we work in picture books, and as a picture book writer, I'm very constrained by word count.
Hmm.
Right?
Yes.
We have
Yeah.
to write that story in 800 words and less.
Hmm.
And it's getting less and less even,
Yes.
Before,
Yeah.
if you went and looked at picture books that were older, right? There were more texts,
Yeah.
right? People could tell stories properly with more words. But now, the challenge is tell the same story, but with less words.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. I mean, there are also, I was doing this workshop last week, last to last week, I guess, and I was telling, it was a children's workshop, and I was telling them that there are even silent books nowadays where you
Oh,
don't need
definitely.
words at all. You
Yeah.
just have, pictures telling you the full story. So yeah, I mean, also in my life, I would say, like you already mentioned, I do have a very structured day usually, and this I'm also saying this over and over again because every creative works very differently,
Right.
and just to help our viewers or our listeners understand that even the two of us, even though we collaborate quite a lot, still we work very differently because our approach towards the creative life is also very different. And that's why, for example, in my case, I do a lot of structured work because I have to dedicate time to different kind of things. So for
Mm-hmm.
example, if I start working at 10 o'clock, then I will at a stretch, I will work from 10 to 3. And between 10 to 3, I should be either doing meetings. It could be film related meetings. It could be meetings with my art directors or meeting with my editors. But most of the time, the meetings happen during that time
Mm-mm.
in the morning. And then after lunch, so around 3 o'clock, I will actually have my lunch. And from 4 to 9 is the time when I start writing or illustrating.
Oh, wow. You're a night
Yes,
an owl.
that's the stretch when I'm actually, because I try to avoid meetings during that time, even though
Mm-mm.
sometimes you can't avoid. Of course, you could also do a bit of a flip. Like I might work, like I might write and draw in the morning, and then in the afternoon, post lunch, I might have to do the meetings. But at least in my head, I need to have those switches on and off. Like, okay, now
Sure.
I'm wearing the producer's hat, so I have to be talking about
Yeah.
business matters and money and
Yeah.
planning
Yeah.
a production. And on the other hand, if I'm doing or if I'm talking to my creative team, if I'm talking to my DOP or my director, then I have to just brief them about how we are looking at the project. Or I'm talking to the, let's say, a music composer or a sound designer, I have to speak to them about those things. Whereas if I'm working on my books, then I'm absolutely in my stories, thinking about my characters, doing my character sketches. If I'm doing a graphic novel, then I'm thinking about the panel structuring and all of that. So
Mm.
one thing I also try to do is I in my daily checklist, I prioritize the day's responsibilities. So for example,
Mhm.
if I'm working, and most of the time, I work on 3 4 stories at the same time. So it's not possible for me to do like 3 stories or 4 stories in one day. So if I always take it one story at a day. So today is my story number
Yeah.
one, and I'll only
Yeah.
work on story number one.
Yeah.
Same with my films. I'm working on 3 films at the same time. So I can't be working on, even though films are slightly different because there are also overlaps. And that's also same for stories, picture books as well. The
Yeah.
stories, I mean, the projects have overlapping timelines or, other stuff. But most of the time, the priority is to see one story at a day and then develop it accordingly.
Yeah. I mean, I totally get that. I mean, of course, not every day of my day is so busy.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like it may seem to be this way, but there are
Hmm.
days when, okay, there's a lull, isn't there? Then,
Yeah.
I then I will try to relax a little bit more and not feel so not feel so wired up, I guess, or not
Mm,
be so
mm,
wired up, right?
mm,
Like,
mm.
I think a lot of us kind of work on several projects at the same time,
Yes. Yeah,
simultaneously, right? I mean,
absolutely.
or we could have books that are, like being published in the same year. Like next
Yeah,
year, crazy next year, I have three books in
yeah,
1 year, and then I won't have any in 2026,
yeah.
and I don't know why it's like that. I have no idea, but it's just the way publishing works. I mean, they could have spread it out a little bit more, but I think that they wanted to have these books out all next year.
Mm,
So, and sometimes, and what happens, I feel in that way is that, you have kind of less time to dedicate to promoting one book, right? So
yes.
next year I'm promoting three books. So,
Mm,
I know I mean, it may sound like really great to people who are, wanting to get published and all that. And this is in no way, bragging at all. It's just the reality of publishing, right?
yeah,
That this is how you work, and you kind of have to work within those constraints and those deadlines, right? That they
yes.
give you. And so next year I doubt I'll be writing. I don't know.
Yeah,
When I think about
yeah.
it, I'm already so tired. But at
Yes.
the same time, I enjoy it, right? So yeah, it's kind of, I guess it's kind of a day in the life of, right?
Mm, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And do you also read and watch a lot of stuff
Oh,
in
that's a
like a
great
regular day?
question. I do. I do. I mean,
Mm,
well, reading less and less, sadly, because I'm so tired by the end of the day.
yeah.
No, I mean, I'm a kind of person that I cannot sleep no matter how tired I am without first reading. It's just a
Mm,
habit of mine. So I may be like doggone tired, but I will go to bed and I'll still open my book and I'll read maybe like one paragraph. And then I
yes.
find that, oh, I'm tired, then I'm sleepy, and then
Mm,
I'll close the book. I tend to watch more films now,
mm,
right? Because I'm also working on um writing a screenplay or for one of my books. But
okay.
that's the challenge I give myself because and it's also a myth to say writing is writing, right? But it's not, because writing a screenplay is not the same as writing a novel, it's not the same
No.
as writing a picture book, it's
Mm,
not the same as writing copy for an advertisement, so this is all writing, but they're all different forms of writing. So I think that is a myth, that writing is just writing. It's not,
yes, yes.
right?
So
So
have
again,
you sorry,
go
do
ahead, go ahead. Yeah.
continue. No, I was just about to ask you, like, have you, I mean, just for our listeners, maybe we
Mhm.
mentioned like something that you have read recently or watched recently?
Oh, funny enough, I love watching documentaries.
Okay.
I love watching documentaries. I mean, I like to understand how people lived
Hmm.
in the past. And I was watching Coco Chanel recently. It's on iPlayers on BBC. It's called I think it's called Chanel Unbuttoned. And it
Hmm.
really is a documentary on Chanel's life, right? But Chanel is so iconic, and she's so enigmatic, and you think that you kind of know who she is because
Yeah.
everybody talks about her, and there are books and books of her life, right?
Hmm.
But there are also things that you don't know um it of anyone, I suppose.
Yeah.
And this documentary combines like footage of films,
Hmm.
photographs, and also sketches and interviews. So it's kind of multi. I suppose it's multidisciplinary. So many, it has you see letters, you see people talking, you see photographs of Chanel, you see her speaking. There
Hmm.
are videos of her, and then there are sketches of what happened in Switzerland when she was telling her story to her biographer. Um, and what I really liked about it is that it tells a story. It's
Yeah.
done this way where the narrator is narrating, right? And
Yeah.
the voice actor, and she's narrating in the voice of Coco Chanel. And she, and I like that form of storytelling. I really love narrative nonfiction, actually. It's my favorite genre, because I
Not
like fiction. I like to learn things, right? And
yeah.
yeah, but I like to also read fiction. So that combines is a combination of the two for me. Yeah.
That's good. So in my case,
Mm.
I listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of
Podcast.
audiobooks while I'm drawing because
Oh,
that is something I could do while I'm drawing, right?
yeah.
So I mean, one of my mentors, Martin Arcel, he always tells me, Smita, please don't listen to audiobooks because he just doesn't like it. But to
Yeah.
me, it's like I love listening to some audiobooks, not all audiobooks. It has to be properly done.
Yeah.
But I listen to a lot of podcasts. In fact, I like to at this moment I'm listening to a very interesting podcast, which is by this author. And
Mm-hmm.
she's an Indian author. She's an Indian Dalit author,
Oh,
actually, and
okay.
she's written a book for which she got this MacArthur, fellowship recently.
Mm.
And it talks about caste and caste, women, sexuality, their intersectionality. It's
Oh,
very
wow.
interesting,
Yeah.
yeah, very powerful. And I'm finding out so much about the Indian, the dominant caste
Yes.
and other castes. So that's one thing I'm listening. And I definitely, unlike you, I love watching fiction on
Uh-huh.
screen.
Yeah.
So I'm watching a series at the moment. It's on Disney Plus. It's called The
Okay.
Bear. It's
Oh,
about yeah, and it's about food, it's about family, and it's about Chicago life. And I just
nice.
love the way it's shot and how the characters are
Yeah.
developed. It just immediately you start watching and you are thrown into the thick of it. Like you get the
Well,
story.
that's the best kind of story, isn't it? Yeah,
Yes, it's
that's the best kind. I mean,
beautifully
I
done.
watch fiction too. I mean, I read fiction, I watch fiction too. It's just that, yeah, if someone asks me like, oh, what's your favorite? I'll always say documentaries, but because that is my favorite. But yeah, I cannot do audiobooks though. I
I
tried.
can imagine.
I tried like thinking, oh, I can cook and listen to it, like, oh, how much time I can save, right? I'm always about saving time, like, okay, I really couldn't do it.
Yes, I
I
know, I
don't
know.
know.
I mean, this is something a lot of people have complained about it that they don't like it. But to me, it's like because I draw, right? While I'm drawing, I
Ah,
can listen to something. I mean, it could be just music, or I mean, this is also one way of taking information because I've seen later I've been able to process that information and, you know, transform it into a different form of a story. So
do
that's somehow
music.
that intake helps.
Yeah. I can do music. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how. I think it takes a genius to be able to draw and listen to someone talking at the same time. But music I can do. And I do often have music anyway in the background, like,
Hmm.
play.
Hmm.
And then I write. I can do that. But I couldn't do I couldn't write and then listen to an
Yeah, yeah.
audiobook.
I don't think that works. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a bit like yeah.
I would like to hear, like, I would like to know who does that. Anyway, what
Yes,
that'd
yes,
be
yes.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So great. I think we're coming to the end of this episode. Yes,
Hmm.
this episode, the third episode, we
Yeah.
touched upon a lot of things. It was a very relaxed conversation, and that's how it is for Picture Book Matters podcast. We have very relaxed conversations. We're not always very excited. We are relaxed, and we
Yeah.
love having these slow-paced conversations in detail. And today we
Mhm.
touched upon a lot of things about PB creators' life in a day, like
Yeah.
we talked about what is the time we usually wake up, whether we are early risers or late risers, and
Yes.
the kind of things that we read, the things we watch, and also about like you mentioned about your inspiration and your process a little bit. So I hope that people have enjoyed watching us, listening to us. You have any last words, Eva, before we say goodbye to our listeners?
Oh, well, I guess we say, see you again. We have another episode coming up. No, we're happy for you to put your comments, I guess, like tell us about your day or what you want to hear from us. I think Smita and I mean, Smita, you and I, we're we're quite candid, right? I mean, I often, and I'm sure you do too, AMA sessions where you can ask me anything. I'm
Yeah.
happy to answer. I just wear my heart on my sleeve, I guess. Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And
Yeah,
on
it's been
that,
great chatting again. Yeah.
yes, on
So
that
glad
note,
we're back.
we say goodbye to our
Yeah.
listeners and
Yes.
we will chat
Yeah.
again soon.
Yeah. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.